Yes, unassisted pregnancy is not for everyone. I'm here to share my story today and hopefully advise you or encourage you if you're considering unassisted pregnancy or if you were in the same situation that I was in, maybe this will help you make a decision. Hi, my name is Dr. G. I am a holistic health coach. I am a pharmacist by training and also a public health practitioner. I chose unassisted birth because of many reasons. And today I'm going to share at least five of those reasons why I decided to go unassisted with the rest of my pregnancies. This is what happened to me with my very first pregnancy. This is my trauma story. Every woman out there, I wouldn't say every, but I feel like, especially women of color, especially Black women, I think 70 to 80% of us can relate to birth traumas. This is what happened when I was pregnant with my very first child. I've always chosen the option of the natural path. So with unassisted pregnancy, it's more about autonomy and choosing to go more holistic and natural. This has always been how I handle my health over the years. So when I was pregnant, naturally, pun intended, I decided I wanted to go unassisted. Well, not really unassisted per se. I wanted to have a home birth. That's what it was. I didn't really want to have an unassisted pregnancy. So I chose to have a home birth. That has always been a dream of mine. So, I found out I was pregnant when I was 10 weeks pregnant. I didn't know anything about pregnancy at this point. I suspected I was pregnant, but I wasn't really sure. So when I found out for sure that I was pregnant, I went in for a doctor's visit. When I called all these hospitals to schedule for a doctor's visit, they were telling me I was too late. Like I was supposed to already have seen a doctor before 10 weeks of pregnancy, which is preposterous to me. It doesn't make any sense. Why should I have already known that I guess so many other women are on top of this type of stuff. Me, I'm 39. I've never been pregnant, or 38 at this point, never been pregnant, had no idea what to expect of this pregnancy. So I discovered I was pregnant because of all the symptoms I was having. I shared this in a previous video when I had traveled and started having all of these symptoms and found out I was pregnant when we were in Europe. So anyway, I came back and I looked for a midwife. I said, okay, I want to have a home birth. I'm going to have a midwife. So at least, again, it's seamless. It's my first time. I have no idea what I'm doing here. And I didn't want to completely take control. This is fear, guys. We are women. We have that natural instinct. There is the God in us that guides us through this decision. You know when your baby is not moving, you can feel all of these things, but I didn't know any better at this point, okay? So I can't talk about intuition because I wasn't sure how I was going to deal with being a mom. And being older, it was a little scary. I'm not going to lie. It was a little scary, the idea of having a baby and not knowing what to expect, what pregnancy seems like, what pregnancy feels like, any of it. So I was looking for a midwife. I went to I'm not gonna mention the hospital. I went to a major hospital here in Ohio, and they have a midwifery center, but it's connected to the hospital. So I went there. First of all, this is my first red flag. You don't get a midwife. There are, I believe, 8 midwives in the practice, and you just get assigned at birth. Whoever happens to be in the hospital is going to be your midwife. So you don't ever get a chance to build any rapport with any one person. I didn't like that. I wanted someone that would be available for me, that we can build that connection. I'll get to know them and all this and the other. Show up for the first visit. First thing is an ultrasound, okay, to confirm that I was pregnant. Yes, I'm pregnant. There's a heartbeat. Yay. Our first child was so excited. And then I had this doctor's visit, but it's supposed to be the midwives, right? Now, these midwives are telling me about all this lineup of tests I have to take. I'm naive because I'm coming to this place thinking they are taking the more natural route. I didn't think I was going to have to go through all of this testing. So they tell me, first of all, you're kind of late coming in. Um, we have to do the amniocentesis, I believe it's called. We need to check and see if your baby's at risk, you're a geriatric pregnancy, you're already high risk pregnancy. And then they check my record. They say, well, it looks like you have Hep B. Okay, that's another part of my story that I haven't shared before. I have always tested positive for hepatitis B. If you are African or if you are from an African country, you probably are aware or you probably do test positive for hepatitis B as well. I've never had any symptoms. I've never had any issues. In fact, I believe part of the reason why we always test positive is because of the malaria treatments that we go through. So because of all of the treatments that we get, most of us test positive. And the malaria treatments tend to go through and are metabolized through the liver. So it tends to affect our livers because most of us deal with a lot of malaria when we are young. That being said, they told me I have to get a hepatologist to follow me throughout the pregnancy. I'm like, what? You're high risk, you have this condition. I'm like, but I really don't have that condition. Well, that's what the record shows. So therefore, we don't want to take any risk. We're going to have somebody follow you throughout the pregnancy and make sure there's no problems because we don't want to take any chances. I'm like, okay, no problem. And so when we walked out of there, I said to my husband, we're not coming back here because I wasn't comfortable with being monitored throughout the pregnancy. I wanted a midwife for a reason. Again, I didn't want to have this excessive medical supervision throughout my pregnancy experience. Now, going back, we started looking for another midwife. Found another midwife. She was great. She seemed wonderful. Everything sounded great. We go in for a couple of visits. We interviewed her. We loved her. And we chose her as our midwife of choice. Sorry, y'all. All right. So we chose that midwife as our midwife of choice. And then by 3 months of pregnancy, I started having a lot of cramping, a lot of pain. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. I had no idea what was going on. That was the fibroid, y'all. I had no idea I had fibroids. At this point in my life, I've never been diagnosed with fibroids. I had no clue. So I started having a lot of cramping, a lot of pain. So I go to her. I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm having all this pain. And she palpates me and she goes, I don't know. I think you might have twins. I'm like, I don't think that's what it is. So she's telling me to go get another ultrasound. Now, this is the second time I'm getting an ultrasound within the 3 months of pregnancy. So I go get another ultrasound and they discovered that I have fibroids. They're like, you have a 5-centimeter fibroid, is the size of a golf ball, I think, something like that. We noticed there are 2, but there's a couple more tiny little ones, but you should be fine. It's not that big deal because they're not that big. That was their conclusion. I go back to my midwife and I tell her, hey, this is oil. She gets the results anyway. I didn't have to tell her that. She got the results. She looks at them. She goes, I don't think I can see you anymore because you have fibroids, you're high risk, you can't do a home birth, you have to give birth in a hospital, so I cannot keep you. You need to find another doctor or you need to find an OB. I can't be your midwife. I said, okay. I leave, I go looking for a third midwife. Gets to the third midwives. This is a different practice. This time around, there's a couple of different midwives. It's not one person. They sounded wonderful, great, And then, same story. They discover I have fibroids. They tell me I can't be their patient. They dropped me. So 3 different midwives dropped me. I go look for the fourth one. I'm relentless. I'm committed to, I want to have a home birth. I want to have a midwife. I don't want to have a hospital birth. That was my story. So throughout this process, mind you, I'm doing yoga. I have an acupuncturist. I'm doing, lymphatic drainage massages. I'm doing whatever you can think of. Meditation, list them. I tried everything. Just trying to make sure I still can have my baby at home, even though I have fibroids. Nowhere in my mind, that's the beauty of mindset, right? There was nowhere in my mind that I felt because I have fibroids, I can have my baby at home. Nope. I was sure I want to have my baby at home. That's what I'm doing. So this was it fourth, fifth, I can't keep count anymore. This was my last midwife though. I got this midwife. She says, okay, she'll take me. However, she works under the supervision of an OB. So this midwife manages you, but she has a doctor that she works with. So if your issue becomes complicated, she transfers you to the doctor in the last minute. So again, this creates that balance. I will see you. You can have this, your experience, if that's what you really want. But if I can't handle it at the very end and you're having any issues, we have an OB that will take over and we don't have anything to worry about. I said, okay, great. Sounds good to me. So that's who saw me throughout my pregnancy. I told her when we first met, listen, I don't believe in excessive intervention, which is another advantage to me of unassisted pregnancy. You get rid of that excessive intervention. So I said, I don't want any excessive intervention. I want to make sure that I see you just when I need to see you. She says, no problem. Perfect. So I went in to see her maybe 3 times throughout my pregnancy, except for the last month. So I hit 40 weeks of my pregnancy. So I don't need to bore you with all of the other details because I didn't see the doctor that often. I'll go in, she would do her test, she would, check me. And I tell my husband, I said, listen, this doesn't make any sense. I come in, I spend 5 minutes. Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. They check the pregnancy, they sense my size, they check my weight, and then they feel basically, and then they let me go. We'll see you again in whatever many weeks. I said, this makes no sense. I don't want to keep coming back here for this same routine. If I feel anything off, I will see you. But otherwise, I think every 2-3 months is totally fine. And she was okay with it. So that works out perfectly. I didn't have any issues with her. I didn't have any complaints or concerns until I got to that last month. When I hit 40 and the baby would not come, that's where my problem started. I got to 40, my baby was not here. 41 weeks, my baby wasn't here. 42 weeks, my baby wasn't here. By 43 weeks, she was calling me, telling me, hey, we have to do something. We need to go ahead and do a cesarean. I said, no, babies take between 4 weeks on both sides. So if you're technically due in January, let's say, you have to give yourself 4 weeks before and 4 weeks after. That's natural. Not everybody gives birth on the 40th week because first, kids don't cook at the same rate, if that's a word. We don't mature equally. And there has to always be a spectrum when we're talking about humans, right? When you go to a classroom, some people get A's, some people get C's. Why? Because we don't equally reason out. The same teacher gave the same lecture, everything happened equally, but we don't absorb them equally. And I think that's the same thing with babies. And in my case, I already have these high risks that we've already established in the beginning of the conversation. So these doctors know I have a risk. That means you don't expect my pregnancy to be equal to a 21-year-old that has absolutely no challenges. I was aware I was okay. So then I go in at 43 weeks. I've been going in every week since 40th week, and they're checking, and my baby is moving. Everything is fine. There's no issues. However, because it's past the due date, they're talking about the risk of the baby dying, the risk of the amniotic fluid running too low, um, the risk of baby pooping in the water, all these other concerns. They are valid. Nothing wrong with their concerns. But I also believe in my natural intuition, and I believe that whatever I'm doing should align with my values and my beliefs. So I felt like my baby was fine because I haven't had any disruption in baby movements. I haven't had any problems, and I'm starting to have contractions, except they're just not solid and they're not coming at the same time and all that. So I knew that there was a little bit, but I'm doing a lot of spinning baby. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. My baby at this point is confirmed to be breached. So the baby is breached. So everything is lined up against me, right? Nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. Now, in hindsight, I know it's the fibroids. When you have fibroids in pregnancy, depending on where the fibroids are situated, your baby tend to lie in whatever most comfortable position they can find themselves so they can survive. Essentially, your baby is trying to survive. Your babies, if you lose your child, and I'm sorry if this has ever happened to you, trust me, your baby tried so hard to stay alive because those babies, they're resilient. So, anyways, I believe because of the position, and those fibers kept growing. The fibers kept going with my pregnancy. So, by the time I was due, I no longer had a 5 centimeter fibroid. I had two, maybe closer. I think they were almost 10 centimeters each. So these are huge if you are familiar with the sizing. And this baby is in there trying to find a way to keep himself alive, essentially. I go through the whole process, and then by the 43rd week, my midwife is calling my husband, she's calling my mom, like she's calling everybody, telling them I want to kill my baby, what I'm doing is dangerous, it's harmful. So I mean, threatening me in the worst way, telling me that I'm not going to be able to live with myself. My baby's going to be dead by the time I have the baby. How would I feel if I discovered that I murdered my child? I mean, the worst things. I can't believe she would say these things, but those are the things she was telling me. So I stopped answering her calls. I stopped answering everybody's calls because everyone was overwhelming me. Friends and family, everyone keeps calling. When is the baby coming? Is the baby here yet? Blah, blah, blah. It's our first pregnancy. So, of course, we told everyone, oh, yeah, we're due on this day. Never do that because then people are timing you. When you say you're due on Tuesday at 8 p.m., at 8:01, people will start calling you. Is the baby here? Is the baby here? Is the baby here? And it is normal and natural for your baby not to come immediately because gestational period, it varies. So, long story short, I finally gave in because my husband, my mom, they were all scared and worried. I went through the hospital. They told me I would have to have a cesarean, which was why I was avoiding going to the hospital because I felt like that was what the outcome of that pregnancy was going to be. I show up. The doctor was nice, nothing wrong with him, but he was very adamant because I had already been transferred to him at this point. He was very adamant about a cesarean anyway, And being that the baby is breech, he was very concerned that he's not going to be able to birth a breech baby. And part of it is the lawsuits. And he made it clear, he's not going to jeopardize his license over me. And that's my worry with the health system, because a lot of doctors don't do what they believe in, they do what is safe and what is secure. So I went through the process. I had my baby through a cesarean, and I hated how I felt afterwards. I was in so much pain. I was still dealing with PTSD from all of the experience, all the things, all the rejections, what the midwife had to say to me, the fact that I couldn't get out of bed for maybe, gosh, 2, 3 months. I mean, it took me a long time to get myself back together. It took me about a year to figure out who the heck I was, because all of that just messes with your head. And again, I've said this, for some people, that is nothing. For me, it was everything. It messed with my mind. So, going back to what I said initially, these are from my story. Hopefully, you can pick up why I feel unassisted pregnancy is a good route to go. One, it aligns with natural beliefs. If you believe that you are designed to have babies naturally, you're designed to take herbs for the healing of the body, then yes, you're going to pick unassisted pregnancy. Two, you might pick unassisted pregnancy because you want minimal doctor's intervention. You don't want the doctors over your head constantly telling you what to do. You want to be able to have autonomy. That's number three. You want autonomy over your body. You want to take control and take charge of your health and your life. Additionally, you can choose unassisted pregnancy if you feel like you have that mom intuition. God has given us the free will, the life, the choice to be able to think and to be able to birth. So if you can trust your intuition, that's an option. And number four, I believe this is number four, it's cost effective. Unassisted pregnancy. With my other two children, I spent zilch. Like I spent $40 when I went to get this one ultrasound just so that I could have some documentation in case it's needed. I didn't have to pay for multiple doctor's visits, a doctor's visits every month, a specialist visit, this visit, that visit. That was all I spent. With my first pregnancy, I think I spent before the birth itself, I spent about $6,000 with all the doctor's visits, with seeing all these different people. And then post that, the birthing cost about $15,000. So everything cost me 20-something thousand dollars, which I don't think we should have to spend that much to birth a child. So natural unassisted pregnancy is much more cost effective. And lastly, I think that when you pick the natural route, you are free. It allows you the freedom to love yourself, to trust yourself, and to have less stress. Because when you're going to these doctors and they keep telling you this is wrong and that is wrong, it completely stresses you out. So it messes with your mental health. Trust me, like you are paranoid throughout your pregnancy because every visit they're telling you something that is wrong or could go wrong or definitely will go wrong. So please think about it, pray about it, consider it. Especially if you have uncomplicated pregnancy, I would always choose the unassisted route. If you have complications like I do, not everybody is willing to go this route. When I had my son, they said that the cord was wrapped around his head. That's why he wasn't able to drop. So I'm glad I had my baby and it was fine. But then again, I don't know. I just feel like there's always going to be something that will tell you to justify why you need to have a C-section. So, needless to say, I was able to have my baby still. He was safe, he was healthy. Um, and he's here running around and, telling me what to do, basically. So, it turned out to be a wonderful story. It could have gone a different way, but with my second and third pregnancies, I just chose not to even deal with that. It was so traumatic for me from the month three, I suppose, when I discovered I was pregnant around that 10 weeks, up until the 43rd week, I was in stress mode. Like my cortisol must have been through the roof because I was worried. I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't think. Every single feeling I felt, I was like, that's it. I'm losing the baby. They knew it. They were right. All of these things. You don't need that. When I had my other two pregnancies, I tried to monitor myself. I did all the tests I felt like I could do. I weighed myself. I monitored my eating. I monitored my ketones. I checked my proteins. So I did the basic things, which is what they do when you go to the hospital. You can do them yourself. They sell the kits. Buy it. Do it yourself. And you don't have to worry about some doctor or nurse threatening you or making you feel like crap or telling you that your brain doesn't work just because you chose not to take the conventional route. Please, if you find this video helpful, share. If you feel that this benefited you, comment. And if you have any questions, reach out. We have a community here. I'm trusting that we're building something beautiful. I would love for you to share your story. If you have experienced anything like I have experienced, tell me your story, and hopefully you can also influence a sister. You can also impact someone by telling us your story. I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video, and I wish you the very best in your pregnancy if you're pregnant right now. If you are planning to be pregnant, think, plan, trust, believe, and you will thrive. Thank you.